Welcome to the Album Anniversary Podcast. Today's show is about No Dream by Jeff Rosenstock. He was released May 20th, 2020, so it is celebrating a 5-year anniversary. And just a heads up, there are going to be curses in this show. Usually I try and take them out. I'm not going to take them out of the song, so it's hard to take them all out when we're talking about the sweary guy.
Did you learn to make amends with your pile of shit? Take the patience to do it totally ends. Without losing your composure, oh, please tell me how it is. I didn't have the time. Did you learn to forge a path towards existence comfortably? In a total nightmare, conquer and the legal win. Did your heart see the fortitude to breeze out gracefully? I didn't have the time. When you wake, does it feel like I have a purpose?
I'm your host, Caleb, or Caleb the Spy on social media, and every day on social media I post about what I call album anniversaries. So on the Album Anniversary Podcast, we take a look at a classic album, an album we love, or an album that's important to us on the anniversary of its release date. Albums on the show do often focus on alternative rock, punk, and my strange obsession with ska. In the 90s, I was super into the Christian music scene, so that does come up often on the show, but probably not today. And today, I'm joined by Ray. Ray, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Caleb.
I'm super excited you're here. We were talking a little before. I have a harder time finding people to talk about some of these non-Christian albums. So when you signed up for it on the spreadsheet, I was so thankful because I was like, yes, I get to talk about this album.
Well, anything I can do for you to get to talk about Jeff, because I know you're so passionate about him. I have to admit, I'm going to be learning from you today because I don't know every single thing about him. You mentioned a couple of things in our little back and forth that I didn't even know. So I'm excited to hear what you have to share with me today and just get to talk a little bit about how we can give people something that they can just let out all of those things with an album, right?
Hopefully it doesn't become too much of me monologuing. See the 5 Iron Frenzy album or episodes where I just go on and on and on. And by the end of it, I just feel bad for the guest. And so hopefully we won't get into that situation. So your first time on the show, usually we sometimes kind of do like a little history of kind of people and just like how they got into music and that sort of thing. Were you raised in a house around music, or was it something kind of later in life?
I wasn't ready for this. Yeah, we had music in my family. In fact, downstairs I've got my dad's Marantz stereo receiver set up, and
wow.
That's what I used to play some of my music on. Not everywhere. I've got lots of different things all around the house to play music. Bluetooth receiver in the bathroom. I have a whole other stereo system in my office. This last week, I just got a turntable for free and took my computer speakers from college and put them together for my daughter and
Nice.
made her own turntable. So yeah, music's a big part of my life. I grew up with music. I remember the clickiness of the buttons on the 1970s receiver, like that little tactile feeling. And I grew up listening to lots of things. Some of the things that were in my house when I was a kid were the Salty albums, if you know those,
Okay. Yep,
back
with
in the
a P.
80s. Yeah. A giant, scary songbook had him.
Who eventually got married and had kids, I found out recently.
Yeah, well, I knew about the kids. I didn't know about the marriage. I think my parents left that one out of the
I'm assuming that's where the kids came from.
Well, there's melody and harmony and melody and something. Sing just like their song or something like that. And my dad also listened to early CCM. We had Keith Green records in growing up, and he had his whole collection and other
Sure.
little albums. And so one of the things that I really look for in music and as I've gotten into vinyl is 70s Christian, like Jesus music. Not the
really?
80s stuff. It ruins everything. Like the 70s has amazing bass lines, and you find some crazy stuff that you didn't even know existed, like Nutshell. Do you know about Nutshell?
I
don't
not.
really know all that much about them, but there's great bass lines, and I'm like, this sounds like almost like Fleetwood Mac to me. So, like if you don't want to listen to Fleetwood Mac, listen to Nutshell.
Okay, there you go. That was not a reference I was expecting on this show.
So that's a little bit of my music history and tastes. You and I interacted a little bit on getting into vinyl. You asked me a little bit about turntables and things, and I told you a few little things about that. But that's kind of how we got connected.
Yeah.
History on Twitter.
Yeah.
How's your turntable working out for you, Caleb?
I have two of them. They're the exact same, just because I'm a bit of a creature of habit. So I have one down here in my office, and then I put almost the exact same setup in the living room, so I can listen in two spots. Our basement is all kind of one big unit, so I can just put it on pretty loud in the main level, and it gets everywhere. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. And like you mentioned, the tactileness of like pushing the buttons. I finally like went and got plastic for all my vinyl, because I heard that's really ideal to have like the plastic sleeves. And so like I've gotten so like it's crack, like tactile crack, like you kind of finger through them, find the one you want, move them and pull it out, and there's something about that sound is like addicting. I'm as addicted to that sound as I am any of the music I listen to. There's just something amazing about it. I don't know what it is. So yeah.
My mother-in-law, I found this out recently. She tried to go to Woodstock. They forgot the gas money. They didn't make it. And I learned that her vinyl crack is just splitting open the new album, like with her thumbnail. She like asked to do that recently. I was like, oh, okay. It was like just opening up a new album for her was her like that almost,
tactile sensation.
Yeah, it made her feel whole. Like So that's another thing.
I did. I pulled Catbite off because it's the day we're recording it's the anniversary of their debut, and I pulled it off, and it was just like I was having a stressful day at work, and so I was like, all right, I got about an hour here before the next meeting. I need to work on something. Let's put something on, and like it was just like, okay, I feel better. Just pulling it off and setting it on the turntable just made me feel whole. That's a great way of putting it. So yeah, awesome. Well, that's super cool. I like kind of hearing some of that stuff. You just get different people's perspectives and kind of what they were raised in. It feels like everybody was raised in something slightly different and how they got into music. So yeah, cool. With that out of the way, I say we tackle this album.
For a dream that will work to a nightmare, like to myself about things that I love, 'cause I'm distracted by public displays of happiness. So it's got me in a never a new pair of Nikes. At a simple shit that I say, I'm above this self-control. Oh no, I'm fucking full of shit. Stinking rich, hypocrite. No, it's not gonna bring no happiness. No, it's not gonna bring no happiness.
So, like we said, we're talking about No Dream by Jeff Rosenstock, again, released May 20th, 2020, so a 5-year anniversary. This is Jeff's 4th album, and there was no promotional lead up for this. It just all of a sudden came out, and which he has done a couple of times. I can think of at least one other time, so this was at least twice where he has done this. He's just kind of released an album, no lead up. Obviously, it was ready to go, but just kind of dropped without any promotional lead up to it. This was produced by Jack Shirley, is how I want to say that last name, and I'm really bad at last names, so I apologize. And he has worked with a ton of different bands. Like, he's got a whole bunch of them listed on his Wikipedia page, but really, honestly, the only other one that I was really familiar with was Joyce Manor. The rest of them, I hadn't heard of a ton of them. I had kind of like seen them here or there, but like I wasn't like, none of them jumped out as like, oh yeah, I listen to them all the time. So he's got a ton of producing credits. I'm just not familiar with very many of them.
That's really interesting to hear. I don't know a whole lot about the background about the album. So a guy that's done a lot of producing is really interesting. But
yeah,
I don't even know Joyce Manor. So
oh, they're a really good punk band. Started on Asian Man Records, and then
okay, yeah, I know
they kind of went big in the last couple of years. So,
okay,
so yeah.
I'll have to check them out.
They're good. I like them quite a bit. Their sound is evolving, but they're another punk band that's out there doing the scene. And Jack has worked with Jeff a lot. I think he's produced every single one of Jeff's solo albums. So obviously Jeff has a strong relationship with him and trusts him, because I think going back to all the way back to that first album, which I can't think of the name right off the top of my head. It's got the broken down car on the front. Anyway, he's been with him since then at least, and I think even before that. So clearly they have a good working relationship. All right, the record company for this is Polyvinyl Records and Specialist Subject Records. So in the United States it was Polyvinyl, and then in the UK it's Specialist Subject Records, and then it is also always, like all of Jeff's music, it is available from quote unquote records. And that's Jeff's record label. And he has always maintained that he always wants his music to be available to everybody, that price shouldn't be a barrier to somebody. So you can find all of Jeff's music on quote unquote records website. You can download all of it for free always. And that's, I believe it's part of his record deal. When he signed with Polyvinyl, he said, hey, that's great. I want to work with you guys, but I'm also going to keep on doing this. And you don't get a say in that. I'm going to keep on doing that.
Yeah. When I picked up No Dream on vinyl, I saw that on the back. I'm like, what is this? And going to quote unquote records.com was almost like a trip into the past, into like 2007, 8, or 9. And it, like, even in references like this album, and the donations are going to these things that happened in the past. I'm sure they keep up. It's just like the most recent thing is what the donations are going to go to. But it reminded me a little bit of did you ever go to Come and Live, the record label?
Yeah.
I'm sure it was after the fact, after quote unquote records exists, because it announced itself as the first, like, pay what you want free record label.
Yeah.
But it also reminded me of, I heard about how Keith Green later on in his career just would give his records away for free. If you know that whole story, it was a story my dad told about how he just kind of shied away from the record labels and would give his albums out to people for free. So it kind of connects a little bit all the way back to that connection for me, just seeing that.
Yeah, and there was a website called Noise Trade that was also the same thing.
Yeah.
And like, I know Derek Webb, I think, was a founder of it, and he always made the comment that every time he gave his music away, he felt like it came back full, like tenfold, because people would then get interested and they'd be like, hey, yeah, I got this one record for him for free from him, and then I went back and I bought 3 more, and he's like, they wouldn't have bought those 3 records had I not given away at least one of them to kind of give them, get them interested. And, so I think I don't think that's, I think for Jeff, it's a bit more of that DIY, and then kind of that, some of that, like, I don't want music to have a barrier. I want it to be as cheap as possible for people. And that's definitely an ethos that he had back when he was in the music industry. And that was the whole point of that band in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
Something interesting about this album is that then a year later, on April 20th of 2021, Jeff would kind of re-record this entire album and release it as Ska Dream. It's the exact same track listing, except for with updated names. And then it's fully re-recorded. Like, it's a whole different rendition of all these songs, but done with ska music. And he got a whole bunch of his friends to come on and do the horns and do all that stuff. And frankly, I think it's really great. I maybe not some of his fans who didn't realize his old connection with the ska scene were a little thrown off by it, but I think it's great. I know Anthony Fantano actually thought it was better than No Dream, because he reviewed both of them on his YouTube channel, and he was like, I know sounds crazy, but I think Ska Dream might be better than No Dream, and he really loved No Dream. So that kind of shows you, if you're into the ska stuff and you've never checked that out, it might be a good way to get into Jeff's music.
I went back and watched that first interview for No Dream that Anthony Fantano did with him, and he asked a question about just ska, like what happened to ska, like, and I couldn't, like, knowing where everything went, I couldn't tell if he was already thinking about it or if that was maybe like an impetus. Jeff also said, like, he was thinking about some other things with the release of this album and how life situations change things.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was thinking about, like, doing the ska album already before it was released. It was just really fascinating to see. And honestly, part of how I discovered No Dream was because of Ska Dream. You didn't mention when it was announced and when it was released yet. Can you do that? When
Ska Dream?
Yeah. When was Ska Dream announced?
So it was ended up being released on April 20th. So it was released on 4/20. And when he announced it, people thought it was a joke. Because I think he announced on like April 1st of that year, right?
Yes, it was on April 1st. So the fact that he followed through, people were shocked. That's really, the big thing that pushed into my sphere was that, like, seeing the reaction to it was some of the first how I heard about Jeff and all of that. So
Yeah, and I think they kind of did it because of COVID, right? Like he had released this, and then it was like, well, we're not doing it a ton. There's not a ton of tours. Hey, do you guys want to send files around and we can just recreate this album in a ska style? I mean, I think that's kind of how it happened. Was it just kind of was like this, like we got nothing to do for a year. Let's send files around. You want to record this part and send it to me? And I mean, either way, it's absolutely great. I'm going to try and cover it next year. So we could reconvene in about a year and talk about Ska Dream and just pretend this conversation never happened. Upon its release, the album was critically praised. It got a 3.5. I'll read some of these. 3.5 out of 5 in AllMusic. Beats per minute, which I'm not familiar with, gave it a 79%. Exclaim gave it an 8 out of 10. Pitchfork gave it an 8 out of 10. And Under the Radar gave it 8.5 out of 10. The Pitchfork one is pretty funny because we'll get to some of the members who play on this in a second. But John, the guy who plays bass on this, he will frequently, although he's left Twitter now, for a while, he would, whenever Pitchfork would come up, he would frequently tweet out the most recent Jeff Rosenstock albums because, like, the last 3 of them have all had better Pitchfork scores than the Taylor Swift albums, and it's kind of become a joke amongst the group that they're not sure how it's happened, but they've kind of become Pitchfork darlings. They're not making music to please them by any means, but it is kind of a joke that they always put up Folklore next to Ska Dream and how Ska Dream has a better ranking than Folklore does. So Pitchfork did love this though, 8 out of 10 from them.
Well, it's so good. Like I wish it probably should be rated higher. Honestly,
I've covered a couple albums where the Pitchfork score is under 4. So I mean I'm willing to go anywhere with Pitchfork. You hate it, you love it. I'll talk about it. Why not? So I made mention of it a second ago. Some of the people who are on this, it's kind of become they call themselves Death Rosenstock, even though all these get put out as Jeff Rosenstock. This is pretty much the same 5 guys who have been on all of his solo work. I think it's a pretty tight group, and there's a lot of band marriages. I want to say, like, there's a lot of interconnectedness in these. So I'm going to throw out their names. I'm not even going to try and pronounce their last names because, again, I am the worst with last names. I'm a failure. So Dan is one of the guys. Pothast. So yeah, this is why I shouldn't do it. I think that's how you say his last name. He plays acoustic guitars, keyboards, and does some background vocals on this. He's most famous from his solo stuff, and then which he puts out as Dan P. But then also he's probably most famous for being the lead singer of MU330. So that's a ska band back from the 90s. He also is one of the current members of the Bruce Lee Band. The Bruce Lee Band is what Mike Park of Asian Man Records started back in the 90s and then kind of abandoned. And in the last 10 years, he revitalized with 3 other people from Death Rosenstock as kind of part of the group. So that's really that there's a strong connection between that. So Dan's one of them. Jeff obviously is in it. He is also in the Bruce Lee Band. Him and Mike Park became friends over the last 10 years. So, and Jeff's been in a ton of bands. We're not going to talk about him. John, like I mentioned, he plays bass. He was in Bomb the Music Industry, which was Jeff's band music collective for a while. The Arrogant Sons of Bitches. And then he has helped out with the Bruce Lee Band, although he is not one of the kind of official members of the Bruce Lee Band. Mike is another guitar player. He does vocals as well. He was in Bomb the Music Industry, and he also has helped out at times with the Bruce Lee Band. So again, that's another connection, although he's not one of the other members of the Bruce Lee Band. And then Kevin on drums. He is that 4th member of the current incarnation of the Bruce Lee Band. He was also in the Chinkies, which is another ska band by Mike Park, who are fantastic. If you've never check them out. Don't let the name scare you off. It was a name that Mike Park is Asian. He knows this is an Asian slur. He chose it for that reason, to kind of make a point about racism. So the Chinkies are absolutely great. And then he's also helped out with AJJ, which they had a previous other name that they went by, but they're kind of a folk punk band. I don't think he's ever been their actual official drummer, but I think he's helped out with some stuff with them. Those are kind of some of their connections. So Death Rosenstock is an important part of this because I think their cohesiveness as a group is pretty good. And if you ever get a chance to see them live, they are a cohesive unit and they're pretty great live.
So as I was going through the Wikipedia article and listening to the album, some of the background vocals on a couple of the tracks, really stuck out to me. So I'm like, okay, who is this woman that I don't know if it one
Sure.
of them that I came across, Laura Stevenson.
Yes.
I was like, okay, who is this? Do you know her? Do you know know much about her, Caleb?
Yes, longtime record label mate of Jeff. So long history with Jeff. Yes.
So I was reading through her Wikipedia article, and her grandpa wrote these insane Christmas songs that you would know. Like you know these songs, and this was the last thing that I didn't get to pull up beforehand. But her grandpa wrote "The Little Drummer Boy" and "Do You Hear What I Hear?"
Oh, okay. That's hilarious.
I'm like, I feel like I need to just lift this up in the little bit of all of this, because that seems a little crazy to me. Like, yeah, my grandpa, he just wrote "The Little Drummer Boy," laid that terror upon the world. No.
Yeah. What did he do? Because now King and Country, I got to hear it every year. That's cool. Yeah, no, they have a long relationship. She was in Bomb the music industry at times. They did a little EP together where they covered Neil Young, her and Jeff Rosenstock. They covered Neil Young songs. So it's like a 6-song EP. I think it's free on quote on the I think it's on there on the his website. And then Chris Farron is another person who's also on this, and he's also had a very, very successful solo career. Kind of another kind of punk offshoot is kind of what I want to say. It's not really always punk rock, but it's singer-songwriter in some ways, but it's got a little punk feel at times. So he's another one who's on this album who's made it. Let's jump into our questions then. And how did you first discover this album?
Yeah, so I spoiled a little bit of it with how Ska Dream was part of the story, but it goes back a little bit further, and it goes back to a YouTube channel called, I'm sure you know this channel, Caleb, called Ska Tune Network. And
I do.
Jur did all of these covers. I found him even before COVID. I think it was like a Kirby cover that he did way back in the day, and just followed him on and off, because I do have a history with ska too. 5 Iron Frenzy 1997 show when I was 13.
Sure.
So following ska in through my story, and I was like, oh, this guy Jur is doing all these songs on his own, and I was like, this is really cool. I'm gonna at least follow along, see what he's up to. And he was one of those people that really mentioned, like, Jeff is doing this crazy thing.
Yeah.
Doing a complete ska version of his album. And I didn't even really know who Jeff was at that time. But, discovering that in the middle of, I had some life situations that were tough. And both this album and 5 Iron Frenzy's Until This Shakes Apart kind of is part of that, like coming back from those tough life experiences and just having some things to, yell with a little bit on and off.
Yeah.
Because that is certainly part of this album. But yeah, I almost put it this way as I was putting it on paper. I don't believe in like the universe, like as a concept. I that's not part of my belief system. But
sure.
the things that did come together with just coming across, getting into vinyl and then coming across the album at the store a couple of times, like, what is this? This album has a cover that just stands out.
Yeah.
This melty, looks very happy, but also like sad at the same time.
Yeah.
It all came together and also Jeff talking about the prices that, like the cut that venues will take out of merch and that going viral on Twitter, like all of that coming together to kind of discover him and this album is really how I discovered the album. I wasn't there when it first came out. It was definitely an after the fact thing, but
sure.
It's definitely a great album when you need to, get a few things off your chest sometimes.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's Jer or Jer. I don't know if I've ever actually heard anybody pronounce it. Jer.
Yeah, I could be pronouncing it completely
They
incorrectly.
are signed. They have a great solo album. that they put out on Bad Time Records. It's absolutely fantastic if you've never checked it out. They're also the trombone player for We Are the Union, which is another ska band that's on Bad Time Records. And then, if you've never checked out the Ska Tune Network, the YouTube channel, it's great. They've got so many great covers on there. It's absolutely fantastic. And they have a bunch of free, you can find it on Bandcamp. A bunch of those have been put onto Bandcamp. So you can actually download them for free. And you can put them into your, if you're interested in downloading music still, that is something that they've got a bunch of them up there on Bandcamp as well. And I believe they played on Ska Dream. I think they're a part of that project. I feel very confident that they contributed some horn lines to that project as well.
Yeah, I think that was part of what
that connection.
What they said. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about you? How did you discover this album?
Yeah. So by 2020, I was pretty all in on Jeff, although I was a little late. I had been aware. I think I said this on I think the Everglow show when I was guest on there, but I had heard of Bomb the Music Industry, and I'll be honest, I like Bomb the Music Industry, but at times they're too weird for me. They're because of that punk collective that they had going on. You'd listen to an album and there'd be two of the songs would be catchy and kind of have that pop sensibility, and you'd be like, man, that's great. And then the rest of it was just weird. And it was a little too far out there for me at times. So I've taken my favorite Bomb the Music Industry songs and put them into a playlist. And that's most of the way I consume my Bomb the Music Industry outside of Vacation, their last album, which is, just so good. But I think that is this is totally off topic. I think that is the album where Jeff realized it's time to leave Bomb behind me and do a solo career, because I think he wanted to write stuff that he had a little more control over and was a little bit more had that pop sensibility that starts to come through in his solo work. So anyway, I was aware of Bomb the Music Industry, and then I was aware of his solo work, but I think when I kind of became aware of it again was right after Post. And I enjoy Post. I have it on vinyl, but it didn't connect with me as much. And so I kind of looked past it a little. And then I think it was sometime in 2019, or maybe it was even early 2020 before this had come out, I kind of stumbled back onto Jeff's music. I think it was in late 2019, and I kind of rediscovered Worry and was like, oh, this is one of the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah,
and
I
so
know,
then when this came out
about that.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, it's number 6. It's in my top 5, I think. All-time favorite albums, maybe right in there. It's 5 or 6. I mean, it's fantastic. And so when this came out, I think I got this day one, because they kind of announced it. I went and bought it digitally, and it was my, so yeah. So I was pretty on top of this. And again, I don't know if I'll include that section we just talked about. I mean, since then I've gone back and bought it on CD because I want a version of it in my car. I have it on vinyl. When I got into vinyl, this was one of the first things I got because I was just trying to collect as much of Jeff's music as I could on vinyl. And I now have all of his solo stuff and have a couple other things as well. So yeah, by 2020, I was pretty all in on Jeff. And so I had this day, if not day one, it was within the first week, and was hooked on it right away.
Yeah, I'm not listening to you.
What is it that you love about this album?
Well, I don't want to make this go too long, but just a small little story about
this.
That's
why we're here. We're here to make it go long. The thesis of the show is take a 30-second comment and turn it into 5 minutes. So go as long as you need to.
So what I really love about the album, to share a little anecdote about it, I was recently in a small group, and the question kind of icebreaker was, do you like the music for the words or the beat? And most people went around the circle and they said stuff about the melody or maybe even like the bass lines. But I was one of the few that mentioned the lyrics and how I'll listen to artists who might not even have the best voice if they have something that like you can really tell they care about.
Yeah.
And there's it's almost like that little scene in Walk the Line when Johnny Cash is like, he wants to play for the record exec and the guy doesn't want to hear another old gospel tune. And it's kind of like that. People that have something like you can tell it's from deep within them. Like a song like that really will speak to me. And, you know, this whole album is almost like a groan of sorrow and sadness, but at the same time being the most angry and happy and everything all at once. It's, you know, it gives you, and I love that it gives you just these great little lines to just scream at the top of your lungs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun, it's raw, and it, you know, and it's also at the same time about how selfish and terrible he is.
Yeah.
And I think the final thing to say about why I love the album, it just makes it relatable to what it feels like when the world is burning down around you.
You've mentioned it twice now. Like, it's sing-alongable, and I keep on saying that word. You said that twice on recent shows, sing-alongable, and I know it's singable or whatever, but it's scream. It's a perfect album. If you connect with this angst, which I think a lot of us do, it is a great roll the windows down and yell album while you're driving around. And there are so many relatable lines from his self-loathing to his view of the world that, like, I think that is the insightful, thoughtful lyrics that flip-flop between those two views of the world make this just an incredibly easy album to connect with, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I love the punk rock nature of it. We mentioned Jeff Rosenstock, and I think, you know, again, this is their fourth album. This is Jeff's fourth solo work. They obviously a lot of them had been in Bomb the Music Industry. So, like, you made the comment about, like, do you like the lyrics or the music? And I've found I'm weird. I am totally a lyrics guy when I get into something and go deep. Like, that needs to be a part of it almost. Like, there's very, very few artists that I'm kind of like, the lyrics are okay. Like, they're fine. The artists I love the most are the artists that I can go deep on the lyrics for. But I'm also still a vibe guy because I think there's so much music. It's hard not to just be... There's so much music to consume that, I mean, how many of us are... There's very few of us nowadays who have the time to sit down with an album after it comes out and read through every last line, because 17 new things just came out, and 14 of them were made in somebody's bedroom, because everybody can do that now, and like there's so much going on. And so this is an album, though, that for me meets that deep lyrical insight, but then the music on this thing, I just think it's such great punk rock. I mean, it's got some hardcore moments. It's got some melodic moments. It's got some catchy moments. It's got these fun things. They do a little drum machines here and there. And just musically, this is Jeff Rosenstock kind of finding their groove, which I think they already had, but they really nail it on this, in my opinion. I'll try and keep it short, but like you mentioned it already, but I think you nailed it. Like, it's really raw. That's what this feels like, which is interesting because it wasn't written during 2020 when like the middle of the pandemic and everybody's feeling this crazy angst. It came out, I mean, so he had to be done with this because it came out, in May of that year. So it wasn't like he started recording in March, but it for the time, it's incredible. This is the second album I've covered on the show that came out in 2020. They are like, wow, what an album for the time and for that season. So yes, there is a rawness that's also here. And I really love how on this album, it feels like every song builds and every song ends up having kind of this epic feel. Every song ends up having some great bridge or breakdown at the end.
Yeah.
It doesn't always follow your verse, chorus, bridge, chorus pattern.
I was about to mention that.
Yeah.
That it did almost, there's hardly any pattern across all of the album, but there still is.
Yeah. But a lot of the songs end with kind of something, like it kind of builds and builds, and then there's this like release at the end of it where you get into the part where you've now rolled down the windows and I live in the suburbs. All the people in the suburbs are freaked out. The crazy guy yelling out the window about the decline of or late stage capitalism.
That's certainly a theme across the album.
It is. It's actually where I picked up the phrase. I had never heard that phrase before. And then I was reading, I think he calls it out in the song No Dream, which I think we'll talk about at some point, but like he calls out the line like late stage capitalism is just here to make your life horrible. It's something like that. I may have the lyrics written down, but like that was the first time I had heard that phrase and I was like, whoa, I'm now on a deep dive on looking up what late stage capitalism is, and there's plenty of information out on it, and you know, yeah. So those are things I love about it.
It is so good. It is a good album. As you mentioned, that rawness, thinking about that there's no like, oh, this is verse 1 and this is verse 2 and here's the chorus and the chorus repeats. It does and doesn't, and you know, but we already hit it.
It does, like there's still like those pop conventions, but I think just so many of them, like again, it shows his hardcore punk roots at times, because then, you know, it still is catchy, because that's the thing is I think that's why Pitchfork has such an affection for him, is because he does both. It feels DIY. It feels very like his vocals aren't overly amazing throughout this, and that's not what he's known for. Now, I will say, if you go see him live, he sounds exactly like the CD. Like, so what you're getting is very much him, where I've seen some punk bands where you go see them live and you're like, ooh, the studio's helping out a lot. There's a lot of help being done in the studio. This is very authentically him. Like when you go see him, if you ever get the chance to see him live, he sounds like this. This is, they're not touching up his voice. So yeah, you might get some cracks in there and you might get some things where he doesn't quite hit that note that he wants to, but when you go see him live, it's going to sound just like that when he goes live, because I think that's what he's going for, that authenticity.
You don't get that, almost like that letdown seeing people live when they can't quite do it. I don't want to call anyone out, but I definitely have a band in mind that is pretty big.
You can say it and I'll just bleep it, I promise.
Okay. It's like,
okay. Oh,
he's
funny.
gotten better. He's gotten better for sure.
But now he's left.
Yeah, I know. But I caught them at Cornerstone before they even released.
Okay.
So I've been following them for a long time, and they were very good the first time I saw them. Okay. But the subsequent times, you're like, oh yeah, this isn't quite as good as the recording.
Oh, interesting.
Since in the final tour, and like I saw him a couple times after.
Sure.
It was good, but it wasn't quite as polished. You know?
Okay. And we'll see if people can pick up from the clues. I'll bleep the band, the album name too. We'll see if anybody can pick up who it is from the clues. Write us in the show. Leave it in the comments on Spotify. We'll see if anybody gets it right. I
think there've been enough clues. You mentioned another little thing, you know. I still listen to them all the time, but
we'll see. I'll mention two, and I'll bleep mine as well. Was one of the ones horrendous live. Horrendous.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So bad.
Well, no. Okay, interesting.
Go, I think it's still on YouTube. They had a Coachella performance from, I think, last year. Oh my gosh. It's so bad.
Well, I'm glad we didn't pay for those tickets when they were like super expensive.
Any tickets I have to put on a payment plan, I'm out. If you hit above $50, and I'm already like teetering, so I just can't do it. The other one I'll call out, and I do feel bad for saying this one. The last one I don't feel bad for. I'll bleep it and see if anybody can figure out what we're talking about. The one is I feel bad about that one, because the studio helps out a lot. It's not the same live, and it's kind of a bummer. I almost wish the album was less polished, because it'd be fine. They're playing punk rock. I think it'd be okay. but it's seeing them live. It was like, ooh. And I had actually watched a couple videos of them live before I saw them in concert. So I kind of knew what I was getting. Like if you don't, you could be a little thrown off. It's enough of a step down that you're like, oh boy. So, but yeah, I hope that one doesn't get out. I feel bad about that one. The other one I don't care about. Awesome. Why is this an album that, it's 5 years later? And I know this is not an old album. A lot of albums we talk about on the show are 30 years old or something like that. But why is this something that 5 years later is still resonating with you or something that still holds up for you?
Yeah. So for me, Caleb, I mentioned how I don't know what's in and out at this point, but I went through a pretty tough time.
That's in. Well, yeah. That's in.
Yeah, that's in.
Yeah.
I went through a pretty tough time in my personal life, and I had a panic attack, and in all of that, part of the thing that, like my post-panic attack to feel a little bit normal was rewiring my brain with vinyl. And then there were a couple albums that really kind of spoke to me as I'm dealing with, the whole outside world and life world. One of them was Until This Shakes Apart. That definitely was first.
Sure.
And then this album is another one. No Dream certainly fits, even two different spheres of people almost talking about very similar things. So that's really why this album is important to me, giving me those shoutable phrases in these songs. I have so many listed on here. Just sometimes you're gonna need to shout, "You will not control," or "The hardest part of growing up is letting go." And so those are really some of the reasons the album is important to me.
I think it's funny because I do equate this album with Until This Shakes Apart, partially because like my three favorite albums of 2021 were Until This Shakes Apart, because if Five Iron puts out a record, it's going to be the favorite record for the year for me. Oh yeah, just calling it now. I'm so in the bag. And then Catbite's Nice Ones was my second favorite album of 2021, and then Ska Dream was my third favorite. So it was 2021 was a golden year of my three favorite records were ska records, which was pretty awesome. Although I think my two favorite records from last year were, so we're just in a golden age of it. But I do equate Ska Dream and No Dream. I kind of see them as, they're kind of brother-sister albums. And then I do very much connect them with Until This Shakes Apart, because there is this kind of album cycle time that happens, that gets released in between. So it's really interesting that you also kind of have that connection. And I think it is. They absolutely are albums that are saying similar things. And I think we kind of mentioned about it, like those screamable moments, or those moments, those lines and lyrics that you want to yell. I think that it totally does make sense to me that you would kind of equate those together and kind of connect them together. Because I totally see that as well.
Yeah.
And this was even though I might like Ska Dream more, and it was my third favorite record of that year, I do think this was my favorite record of 2020. It is definitely the highest ranked on my all-time favorite albums list that I've curated, I've spent way too much time on. It's the 21st album, and it's the highest one from 2020. So this is my favorite album that was released in 2020. And I think you've nailed it. Like, the reason it holds up and it still feels relevant and I can still play it today is that it just speaks to so many of the struggles that I've felt myself. Like, he talks directly about anxiety on this. I mean, there's a song that is literally, it's let me look it up real quick. The song "The Beauty of Breathing" is specifically calls out his struggle with anxiety. And it's something I struggle with. Now, not probably to the extent maybe other people do, but it's something I definitely have had a struggle with. And then he speaks so bluntly to the state of the world. And my biggest anxiety is the state of the world and the state in which my children are going to have to become adults in it. I mean, that's my biggest concern, is what chance do my kids have of launching and finding good jobs and being able to live independently in a world where there's so much seems uncertain and there's no clear path, and financial stability for the younger generations feels unattainable. Like those are just real truths we live in. And if you want to deny those, I'm going to kind of roll my eyes a little and walk away. Like it's a very, very uncertain world for young adults. And I don't have to experience that right now, but I know my kids will. And so like, that's for me is like one of my big drivers for anxiety. And I think he speaks so well to it in this album.
As you talk about just the state of the world, it seems like this is another album that feels more relevant again.
Yeah.
As we get into a state where there's a German word I learned on some like random game show, and it might have been like a spelling bee one, but the word is Weltschmerz, and it means like world worry, like the state of being worried about the world. It's not really an English thing, and I took a couple of years of German in high school, but I basically just learned the word for calculator. That's all I know. But this word has stuck with me about the state of the world, being worried about it.
Yeah.
This album just speaks to being worried about where things are. Right.
Yep. And you brought it up before, the idea of even like his self-loathing at times, or like the way he does turn that inward at times. Like, yes, he is very critical of the state of the world, but he is also able to recognize the things that he could improve on, or the things that he feels like a fraud about, or like, and I think that is also, that's very powerful to me. Like I feel that, like, yes, I feel like I want to call people out, but every time I call somebody out for being a hypocrite, I just feel stupid because I'm a huge hypocrite. Like, and like, I think he recognizes that and puts it out. I mean, he puts it, the second song is kind of all about that. And it's a powerful song when it kind of, he points the finger back at himself.
Looking for that new pair of Nikes, right?
Yeah. I can't wear Nikes though, because I got feet problems. I have to wear New Balance.
Oh.
Yeah. It's my my cross to bear.
Careless, the planet, sleep mask and wishing, turn it to something, don't let it die. Girl, I'll take a piece of you, cross the state line like the wind that seals my body, like the sun that steals my mind. The feeling that follows you from a past life when you lose it in a moment. Can't you tell yourself this?
Let's talk about some of our favorite songs. I know there's a lot of them on here. I know I have a lot that I really love. What are some of your favorite songs or that you feel like we need to talk about?
So, Caleb, you mentioned my favorite song on the album already, The Beauty of Breathing. Just, as we've talked about being in that state about anxiety and not knowing what's happening in the world. Just the first couple of, even though the song ends with no hope and the end is sad and jaded, it still gives me a strange amount of hope. Relating to the fact that he just wants to drive his car and throw it into park and let everything just kind of crash, get destroyed. That was not necessarily the thing that I was picturing. I was thinking about just veering off the road, like into a tree or something. But like in my own personal life, to be completely honest, but that speaks to you when you're like, oh man, someone else was feeling something so similar to me. And then just being able to shout, oh man, what is the great line in there? Oh, it's like "Go Away" is definitely that puts it at the top of my list for the songs on this album.
Yeah. So his quote from this, he did an interview after this came out, and he song it was this song is about how, well, personally, about how whenever in the past few years when I've talked to people about my anxiety, they've all suggested the same meditation app on my phone, and I'm like, you just don't get it. And I think this is his like feeling that, and he has elaborated on it more, even in his most recent album from 2023, whenever Hell Mode came out.
Yeah, Hell Mode. Another great album.
Like he went into it more. He has there's a couple songs on there that really lean into like his mental health struggles, which again is so true for so many millennials, because I think he's a couple years younger than me for sure,
And
like
2 years older than me. Kind of
Okay.
like right in between the two of
oh
us.
funny. So yeah, I think he's really like I think he's identified so many of those things that so many millennials are struggling with, and yeah, I think it's a great song.
And what about you? What's favorite songs that stand out?
So so many of them stand out. So I'll get to my favorite song in a second. Let's go. I do want to talk about Nikes. I love the idea that he starts talking about how crappy things are, but then he doesn't let himself off the hook. This is the song where he does that. And he just says, looking for a dream that won't morph into a nightmare, lying to myself about the things that I love, because I'm distracted by public displays of happiness. So I scour the internet for a new pair of Nikes, status symbol that I say I'm above. Disown control. Oh no, I'm full of shit. And then the chorus comes in and he's like, stinking rich hypocrite. No, it's not going to bring no happiness. Like, I love it. I love that idea that he just points the finger at himself. And like, that's what I think when I see somebody do this and I'm like, oh, that hypocrite. And I'm just like, nope, it's me. I'm the hypocrite. I'm stinking rich, especially compared to everyone else in the world. Like, there's no way around it. I am so stinking rich. And here I am complaining about every last little thing. So yeah, I think it's the first song, No Time, comes out blazing, but then that song's only 55 seconds and then it rips into
So
Nikes
good.
and you're like, oh my gosh, this album flies those first couple songs. So I don't know. I know you've kind of mentioned the idea of him self-loathing, I think was your word. Maybe that was my word, but yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Nikes?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just thinking about shouting, chasing bliss, and how
Yes.
there's no vacant bliss. Like that thing keeps coming up empty. And
Yeah.
I personally have a different opinion on like where there is hope than Jeff, I think.
Yeah.
But just you can see like he's speaking out like that new pair of shoes or whatever you're chasing is, it's going to go away. Like that
Yeah.
feeling of like, I got the thing that I was finally looking for, whether it's a record that you pull out of a bin, like I've been looking for this record forever. I finally got the Res Band record I was looking for, like I got last week, but it was like the feeling isn't quite as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
Like I'm just chasing that dopamine rush, and it's like, oh, I found, that's cool. I paid $1 for it. The guy didn't even charge me tax, but it didn't feel quite as good as,
Yeah, no, it's amazing too. Like, so my worldview and like I've talked about it. I mean, I run a whole show about Christian culture. My other podcast about Christian culture. So like, I still like going to church, and it's definitely still that's important to me. And you're right. Like it is. I probably come out on a different spot than where Jeff does about where to find that hope. But like, I can connect with this. I feel like my Christian faith and Christian values connect with this in realize like what he's talking about. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of status symbols that I chase that I really are not going to fulfill me. And yes, I think probably Jeff's finding fulfillment maybe in some different ways than I am. I don't know. I don't know you, Jeff. If you listen to the show and I've said something I shouldn't, I apologize because I love you to death. But like I do think like I think it's almost my Christian values that make me connect to him recognizing some of his own flaws and make me go, yeah, I've got those flaws and I should be this is getting awfully religious. I should, as a religious person, I should be one of the first people who owns up to my huge flaws and my own hypocrisy and how I chase status symbols and stuff like that. So yeah.
Caleb, you got to stop apologizing. Stop the Minnesota nice.
No, I can't. I don't have it in me. I always have the fear that the artist will actually listen to this and then I'll have said something I shouldn't have and then I'll feel bad. I don't have it in me. There's so much, oh my gosh, this is totally, there's so much room for like confrontation, especially on podcasts. Like there's so many people, like there's keyboard courage. And then I think there's become like podcast microphone courage.
Oh,
and I don't want to have it. I would rather like think about like, I'm going to say this and the person is sitting right next to me. What would I want to say in front of them? Because, they're all humans as well.
Oh yeah. Which you can tell really in this album. Like,
yeah,
he's totally a human who,
yeah.
I don't know if part of me guesses a relationship went bad in this too. Like,
he's been married for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's been married a long time. I think he's been with his partner for. I know he's married. The internet I think has told me at one point that he's married, and I think it's a pretty long term relationship that he's been in.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my understanding. I could be totally wrong, but I think he knows how to write. I'm gonna say pop song. None of his songs are pop songs, but like he knows how to connect into that and like write narrative stuff that I think he can project. So I think he knows how to do that. So
yeah, I could see that too.
So I think the first single off this was or I don't know, I think it was maybe the only single because there's a video for Scram that's out there. So that's the third song. So I know we're kind of going track by track here. We're kind of a little all over the place, but like I said, the whole album comes out flying. I think those first three songs, No Time Nikes, and then Scram. What are your thoughts on Scram as a song?
I think you have it listed higher than I do on like how much you like it. I have it at about I personally just did like a ranking on a 1 to 5. And I have it as a 4.
Okay.
The chip tune drums at the beginning are okay. It has that build and that heavy finish and that chorus to scream at the top of your lungs. Don't you want to go away? It is really good. But it just I know the album can't just go and go and go and go. It needs to have that moment to just breathe a little bit. So I really do like Scram, and just being able to scream, "Don't you want to go away?" is great, but it takes a little bit of a dip for me personally.
4 out of 5 is when that's taking your dip. That's not
it's still really good. It's still really good.
Yeah, I love the bridge at the end where he says, "Everything you say is to make me feel stupid. Everything you say is to make me feel bad. Everything you say is a distraction. Well, I'm not listening to you." And then it breaks into the "I'm not listening to you." Ooh, 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 ooh.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think it's one of the more yellable moments on the album. What other songs do you want to talk about?
Well, honestly, the only other one that I really wanted to talk about is the next track.
Is No Dream?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the other one where I'm like, this is, between The Beauty of Breathing and No Dream, those are two of them that just hit so hard. I love the build, and that the nightmare we live in is sometimes real, and oftentimes it's real.
Yeah.
And it's not a dream, and what can we do?
Yeah. And this is the one where like I think somebody, if they would listen to this, especially if they throw this on, they'd be like, "Oh, well, let's listen to the title track." Like his vocals at points in this feel like they're being stretched in this song, but I feel like there's a desperation in his voice during this song, and it just feels like it comes through so clearly. Like his desperation is the word I would use.
Yeah, because it's about the separation of families at the border. It's about school shootings and like how do we stop this? Like you're blessing the bullets of the shooters, giving them fame. It's so deep and tragic, and like what can we do is like I can see the breaking in his voice and just wondering what hope is there? What do we do?
Yeah. Yeah, and it builds, and then there's the breakdown at the end where he says the only framework capitalism can thrive in is dystopia. Fuck all the fakers acting like they're interested in hearing us. When we yell, hold accountable the architects of hopelessness and never-ending violence, you'd be like, whatever, idiot, and fuel their brand of power. Like it's just, and then it goes on further, but like, I mean, that sort of stuff is just, it's puts to words, I think what, so many of us feel. Sanity fronts in a system that rewards only the greediest. Like, oh man, the only end game of capitalism is dystopia. Like, yeah, these are lyrics that hit hard for me.
Yeah. I realized that I hadn't taken the time to like learn that breakdown until you reached out to me, and I was like, oh, there is so much in here, like pretending to be this saint, and it's all a front, it's all fake.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I agree. All right, there's two other ones that I want to talk about.
I want to hear.
I always have to talk about the closing track because that's a theme on my show. Because I don't know, Steve Taylor has made me obsessed with closing tracks since I was in a freshman in high school. So there I am. But I'm going to first talk about B&B. And I do think this might be my favorite song on the album. And I really love this version. And I do love the Ska Dream version. That's the other thing, is at some point, like, to cover Ska Dream, it's hard not to do the comparison thing, because like there's enough variety in them. But anyway, the B&B is, I think it's my favorite song on the album. I think the chorus is just so catchy, and I want to say fun, but nothing about this song is fun. But yet it feels a little that way. And then the last 2 minutes is, again, one more of this like just amazing, breakdown. It's this stream of consciousness, and I can so relate. So I when I get anxious, often it bleeds into my sleep, and I already have sleep issues. Like I think I've said it on shows before. Like I go through states of narcolepsy where I just don't sleep for days at a time. Or, I mean, my record, which is not a good record by any means, but my record was, I went, I think it was, I always get the numbers wrong. It was either 9 days with 11 hours of sleep total, or 11 days with 9 hours of sleep. But like, so I'll go through it where I just don't sleep for days at a time. And that sucks. So like when he says the line, "Still too much in my head to sleep," I'm just overwhelmed, because I'm like, oh, yep, that is me. And so like the lyrics at the end, he said, "I don't want to lay in pain and stare at the ceiling while chasing the fleeting. There's too much in my head to sleep. And I did that thing the movie said, foot on the floor beside the bed. Still too much in my head to sleep, too much in my head to sleep." And then it breaks down even more, and it goes into the third verse. There's so much that like just that he just throws out there that is like, holy cow. And for me, the connection is definitely the sleep part of it, just too much in my head to sleep. But yeah, it's just, I think there is something kind of incredibly cathartic. I've never heard a song where it goes on and on about your inability to sleep. And for me, it's like, oh man, I can relate to it so much.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't want to break your heart about what I have this song ranked on my. I have a couple of them at threes, and so this one didn't speak to me as much, but like it almost goes back to how the other song, "The Beauty of Breathing," spoke to me in just that little line. This song spoke to you about not being able to sleep and the anxiety that you've held. It really goes to show that there's so much of a wealth in what Jeff put into this album that you can relate to. And maybe you don't love his voice all the time, like if this is the first time you're diving into this album, but you might find places where you're broken and worried and anxious, and you can kind of commiserate a little bit with him.
Yeah.
No matter if you're reaching the same points where you're going to go with that.
Yeah. And I think his vocals, like we've mentioned it a couple times, but I think it's also like, it's punk rock. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I think it's okay for it to be a little off every now and then. Like,
oh yeah,
I think there's something, I don't know. It's, again, that's that authenticity of it. Like, it's him. There's never any question about it. So, all right, last song then that I'll cover is the Ohio Turnpike, or T-Pike. I think it's technically how it is on the cover.
Yeah.
I always want to say Turnpike, but and I think this is kind of his attempt at a love song. And I think it's a good closer. It's a little epic. It goes on a little longer than some of the other songs, because it's like almost 6 minutes, which is pretty, everything else is kind of around anywhere from a minute to 4 minutes. So it's, it kind of gets done with the lyrics, and then it's got this like kind of outro that it kind of closes down the album with. But I really, I like it as a closing song. I think it fits well with so many of these songs feeling epic and rising. I think it works well. And again, the lyrics are so good when he's talking about like, kind of flying home and like, I don't want to leave home. I love the line that he says that you're the only person that I wanted to like me. Like that feels really powerful. And like, that's the feeling I want to have 100% of the time towards my spouse, that, that she's really the only person that I need to like me. So it isn't the exact same, but like you can feel this again, this kind of like him longing for that connection, I think. And I think it works well as a closer. And I like, again, some of the lyrics just feel, really, really I feel like I can connect with. Again, it goes in a little bit of the sleep stuff at the end, and hoard our scary secrets until they wake us up at night. I think both me and my wife wake up at night anxious about work or kids and stuff like that. So yeah.
This was the song I was considering putting up in my top songs. I really do like this song a lot. And this was one where I was, you said Jeff's been in a good, like a long-term relationship for a while, but this was one where where the end, where he's talking about being on the road and then coming home and, like almost missing the road and coming home to, it sounds like almost like disagreements about like, oh, I'm home and you've already brought stuff. Like I just got off the plane and you're already bringing, things that it sounds like they're already fighting about. And as he closes out the track, where he talks about, I miss coming home to you. And then I hate coming home. I hate leaving home. All of those feelings together, and then ending with the most perfect out of tune piano.
Yeah.
It's like the right amount of out of tune. It's so bittersweet, the song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's a great closing song.
Yeah. And I love that dynamic of I hate leaving home. I hate coming home. Like I'm totally like a creature of habit. Like I want my habit to be my habit. And like, so, but that if I'm gone, like, I don't want to come home because like I've gotten in that habit of being gone. And when I'm here, I don't want to go on vacation because I'm like, oh, it'll mess up my routine. But then once I'm on vacation, I don't want to come home either. So like, I can totally relate to like that idea of like that creature of habit that just wants the same thing over and over again, even if it's not the thing I just had last week, like I can totally feel that weird dynamic of I hate leaving and I hate coming home.
I think not to make this suddenly a Johnny Cash podcast, but the dynamic in Walk the Line when he's come back from tour and he's dealing, I can't remember his first wife's name, but they were fighting about like, he's telling stories from the road and she's angry at him because he's always gone and like missing that connection. Like that was kind of what I was picturing here in this dynamic. Like,
awesome.
I guess I think one other song on this album that really jumps out is Fame. Like how fame is fleeting and people, if you need to shout, line up to watch it crash and burn, or The Fame, or You Will Not Control. It's a song that like is great to put on.
Yeah.
It's another one that starts a little, kind of builds as it goes. It ending out with just You Will Not Control, You Will Not Control, You Will Not Control.
Yeah.
If you're in a spot where you need those words, it's a great one to go to.
Is that I don't have my vinyl in front of me. Is that the end of side A or is that the beginning of side B? I'm guessing it's the end of side A.
So Fame, in his interview that he did with Anthony Fantano, Fame was the original end of side A, but he was talking to his friends about how there were so many, like it was so lopsided because he's got the two 6-minute songs on side B. And they said, just write another song. And so he wrote Leave It in the Sun kind of after. And that's the one that has the hardest part of growing up is letting go.
Okay.
So it's almost like you have double the like side A closers there.
Yeah, but okay, so those two close out side A. Okay, that makes sense. I think that's a good spot to do it. Yeah, I like that song too. I think I love the repetitive breakdown at the end where it just you lost, like, he just kind of really, again, because I think there is like all of these songs have this ending. It feels like it's interesting to hear. I do remember listening to that interview, although I clearly don't remember all those parts of it, but like that's interesting, the idea of like, oh yeah, you just need to add another song because you got so much epic stuff happening, or kind of the longer songs all in the back half of this. So that's cool. talking about it for like an hour and 10 minutes. So if people already don't know why we think you should go check this album out, it's pretty clear. Just go back and listen to the last hour and a half. But the final question we always ask is, somebody missed this. They didn't check it out 5 years ago. Why would you tell them to, hey, go back and check this album out? And I know that it's really easy to just say, I've just said it for the last hour, Caleb.
I think it's definitely if you're dealing with the realities of the world and you just need to shout, you will not control, or the hardest part of growing up is letting go. Especially while you're in your 40s, this album is for you.
Yeah.
It's a saccharine sweet album while also crying out about pain, both inside and out. And
yeah,
it's not going to offer you hope, but it'll allow you to shout about the problems of the world. And that's why you should listen to it. What about you? What's your why people should listen to this, Caleb?
Well, I'm going to do this off the top of my head because I didn't write anything down for this. Usually I have something written down for every one of these, and I don't have anything here, but I think you nailed it. I think it is... I can find moments of hope on here. They're fleeting. They're not as much as even Worry is also has a lot of these themes, but there's a little more hope at the end of Worry. And even Hell Mode, which I know is ironic, considering the name of it, has a little more hope than this one. This probably is his darkest moment or darkest album in some ways. But yes, I think you've nailed it. Like, it is still, it's really funny that you would put, Until This Shakes Apart, like, of the last 5 years, and I turned 40 right around 2020, year before. But, so like this was an early 40s album for me. And that is when, my anxiety kicked in like 2017, kind of my late 30s is why there was an incident at work that really kicked off panic attacks and stuff like that for me. It sounds kind of similar to you. And so I think this is one of those albums that I can just scream at the top of my lungs when I'm feeling frustrated or I just feel like I need to let some of it out. And you're right. For me, there is a good companion piece to put on Until This Shakes Apart as like kind of have some of those other sides of it where I can still feel mad and scream at the world. But yeah, I think that is what it is for me. And I love the punk rock infused thing that he's doing here. It's not straight punk rock in some ways, but maybe it's a little more alternative rock. But like, I love how this still feels a little DIY. It still feels a little raw. And I think it scratches a lot of the itches that I want in an album.
Well, I mentioned that I was going to kind of put something like a little bit of a surprise in all of this. And since this is, I know you've got a lot of your albums and a lot of the people that follow your album anniversaries follow for the contemporary Christian charts or like the ones that they grew up with, the ones they know. And I'm sure they know the charts of if you like this artist, you'll like this person. And I thought, let's do a reverse. Like if you like these people of the Christian music scene, you'll like this album with Jeff Rosenstock. So I listed 3. One we've already talked about, of course, which is 5 Irons, Until This Shakes Apart. Yep. The other 2 that I was thinking of was the Dingees' Armageddon Massive.
Okay.
Like, I think that's another
a good selection. Yeah.
Like as far as maybe not as much about the themes, but more like the musical styles there. I was trying to pick up one of the Dingees albums there. And then the other one that stood out to me is Crash Dogs, which is their album Cachists, Fascists, and Other Fungus. So those, if you like these albums, you should check out Jeff Rosenstock's No Dream. Well,
that's a really interesting way of looking at this, that if you like these Christian artists, you should go check out. I'm glad I didn't have to answer that, because I don't know if I could have done that. I'm trying to think of like the most raw punk rock. I want to say Goaty Hook musically, but doesn't fit lyrically at all. Yeah. Like they're way too, maybe their last album has a little bit of a feel like this could. Man alive, that's a really hard question. It's really funny. This is a good, well done. This is a good, one of the things I'm hoping to do for Patreon, because I run a free Patreon. It's just another place to do it, but I want to have some exclusive material that's just there. I collected, somebody helped provide me with some of those old posters, like pictures of them.
Oh, you did. Yeah.
And I want to do comparison, like sit down with somebody and be like, all right, we're going to listen to 3 songs off of this album. And then the comparison album, listen to 3 songs and see if we can, talk about why they got compared and stuff like that. Or
Oh, man.
just
Yeah.
make fun of it. So that's what I want to do on Patreon. It's probably not going to happen till the end of the summer because just life's too busy right now. But that's what I really want to do is Patreon exclusives, is kind of random things off the poster. So well done. That was a nice promo.
I definitely have done the other direction before in my life and been like, I don't see how they got this at all. Like they're just trying to sell some albums for some person. Once people have sold an album, they spent their real money on a real physical thing. Maybe they'll listen to it over and over again because I spent $15-$20 on this album.
Yep.
But yeah, some of those were definitely just bait and switch, which you don't put it past some of those people in those spheres of the commercial Christian music world, right?
It's amazing what you said about that. Like you spent the money on it, so I'm going to listen to it. Jared brought that up on another album from 2020 when we were talking about Spanish love songs. We were talking about we were both raised listening to mostly Christian music. Where I wasn't raised. I was by choice. My choice to listen to mostly Christian music was not enforced by my parents. It was me and wanting to do that. But he mentioned that like there's albums that he sat with because he spent $18 on them, as a high school kid who had no money. And so every last disposable dime went to CDs. And he's like, yeah, if I bought it, I was going to listen to it over and over and over again because I couldn't. That experience has been ruined by Spotify where everything is accessible. And you don't sit with anything as long as you probably should. And yes, there is stuff I sat with way longer. You mentioned the bait and switch of those posters. And the one I always bring up is, I swear on one of the posters, it was, if you like Nirvana, you'll like Wish for Eden. And I was like, nope, guys, you're wrong. I'm not petting this fish. It is wrong. This is bad. I do not like that album. I understand. I know some other people like it. It's not for me. And I remember that being the ultimate, like, I'm never trusting this poster ever again because it was so wrong. Man, I love the posters.
Plenty of great conversations, right? Yeah.
I think so. I think there's great Patreon content to be had there of just breaking down those posters. All right, well, that's it. That's our breakdown of No Dream by Jeff Rosenstock. Again, released May 20th, 2020. Some of these I felt less confident of, especially you go further back. I've had some shows recently where I'm like, I think it's around this time. I feel really, really confident of the May 20th date in 2020. So celebrating a 5-year anniversary. Ray, I know you're not on Twitter as much anymore. Is there anything you want to sell, or where can people find you online if they want to follow you for more content? Are you on Blue Sky or Instagram?
I'm on Threads. I'm on Threads a little bit.
Okay.
I'm still listening to music and I like posting it to Last FM. So if you want to know what I'm listening to, you can probably find through my Twitter back in the day to my Last FM account.
Okay,
it's probably
I'll post your Twitter in the show notes because I think it's still active, and then people can find the Last FM if they want. That's awesome. That's perfect. Sometimes people have stuff they're trying to sell. Sometimes people don't.
I'm just
become my last question always.
I'm just here for you, Caleb, so you can talk about Jeff because you're the one that really knows him really, really well. I obviously came to him late. It's a great album. I like it a lot, but I'm here for you.
I'm really thankful that you're here just because like these I'm happy to talk about the Christian stuff. Like that's clearly I have a connection for it, But like these are the albums like in the last 5 years. This is number 21 on my all-time favorite albums list. This album is something that to be 5 years old and that high on the list and not 5 Iron Frenzy, that's saying something. And so like, yeah, these are the albums I want to talk about. So I really appreciate it. I think you're on for a couple other albums this year. I think Tim, I was looking today. I think Tim by The Replacements
Man,
is one that I think your name is next to.
Yeah, I should have. I've seen it a bunch of times physically, and I haven't picked it up yet.
Oh, I have that one actually.
Yeah, it was. They recently had it on Record Store Day. They did a re-release for Record Store Day, and then I came across an original pressing at a store that I was at. I was like, ooh, do I want to pick it up? What I really want is, what's the one with they're on the roof? Is it
Let It Be?
Yeah. That's the one everyone wants. Yeah.
I have a repress version. I didn't even try and chase the original. I went out and got that because I think that's my favorite album by them. Those are the two though. Tim and Let It Be, I think, are their best two. So I think you'll be back for that. And I think there's another one that I might have roped you into that I think you said I could do this if nobody else will do it. Can't Complain by Kill Lincoln.
Oh,
You're filling this void of Caleb wants to talk about these things and nobody will talk with me. So,
yeah, I'll talk about Squad 5-0 a little bit with the Replacements because that's how I know about them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
While we were recording, I just got a text about Squad 5-0. So maybe there's some breaking news about Squad 5-0. You and I can talk about it.
Are you going to the reunion show?
I'm not. I'm maybe traveling for the prayer chain.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
going to do the stream. Tricky. There's a stream that you can catch.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Me and my buddy might do that. That's probably the only one I'll make it to this year. Somebody was trying to convince me to make it to one of the 5 Iron shows by them. But I don't know if I can do two traveling shows in a year. I don't know if I can handle it. So yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and this was great.
Glad to be here. Yeah,
awesome.
But I just wanna stay. I'm only a real person for a quarter dozen days until I gotta scram, until I go away and turn into a person that I really wanna be. Don't forgetting gold on my laundry. I'm becoming so afraid. I'm honestly like some fentanyl chemical trapped you with my brain, bleeding from the dealer, so I'll black out on the plane. Rolling in the dark and living vicariously through a photo album in a stranger's DNA.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Album Anniversary Podcast. I want to say thanks again to Ray for joining me. Again, I wouldn't have had anybody to talk to if he hadn't signed up for this, and I was glad I got to talk about this album. Sorry for all the curses. If you don't like the curses and you made it this far, thanks for sticking with us through some of the curses on the album, but it is what it is. Let us know what you thought. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? What are your favorites from this album? You can find me on social media still. I'm Caleb the Spy on Twitter, on Instagram, on Blue Sky. You can also email the show at calebthespypodcast@gmail.com. I do have a Patreon as well. That's the Album Anniversary Podcast. Look it up there. It's totally free. Again, I mentioned it, I think, at some point in this episode, the idea that there might be some Patreon stuff that I'm trying to do if I can get through the summer. It's hard to keep up with shows, but I'm trying to get some exclusive material on there. Again, totally free. So if you have a Patreon for something else, just sign up for mine and you'll get informed about other stuff I release. Please subscribe and share the podcast. If you are on Apple, leave a review, leave a rating if you can. I have heard it is helpful for podcasts. If you enjoy the show, you might also enjoy the other show I do with my friend Scott. It's called I Survived Youth Group in the 90s. It's not just a podcast where we reminisce about our youth and our youth group experience, but we're trying to interview fellow 90s and 2000s youth group kids and, find out kind of where they're at now, whether they've left the faith entirely or they are still at the church they were raised at. We just want to hear people's story and how that youth group experience has impacted their life. No right or wrong answers on that. Just want to hear where people are at. Thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.
With eyes peeled for tatters and tags, flying half-mast like the flag. And through the families, we wait in a quest for a cab. Nobody wishes for the things that they already have. We relive every misstep that we've made in our lives and hoard scary secrets till they wake us at night. And we think we can't escape from it, but maybe we might if we try to just acknowledge we can do anything right. You know you're
The sweary guy, literally, that's what my kids call this guy. Called Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, Dad, put on the sweary guy. You got it, kids. We listened to it today before dropping one of them off at youth group. We're a weird family.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Any other facts that you want to bring up?
I think that was my one
Okay.
good fact that I had.
Well, that was a great one.
Yeah, I mean,
I kind of forgot about who else guested on this, and yeah, she's great. So
well, having the well, I know you probably can't. I turned off my own video. So it
Sure.
lists everyone and doesn't hide Death Rosenstock. Like it tells like who
Sure.
the real people are. So you can even see who the Vox and Clap squad are. All of them. But
I
no,
just
that
have
was
the Wikipedia
that was the only
page up.
good thing that I had.
Oh, it's
the only
Claps.
interesting-
There's a whole bunch of people on Claps. That's funny. Lauren Brief.
Oh, did you
Gilbert.
find it?
Yeah, I found it on Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
I have my vinyl over here. I have this. This is one that I have on vinyl. I have on CD, and I think originally I bought it digitally. So I purchased this one 3 times. So awesome. All right. Well,
Yeah, thanks for letting me hang out, Caleb.
yeah. No, this is great. Sorry, I got super late. Glad we started at least a little earlier.
No, it's only 9:40 here. It's
Oh.
still before my bedtime. I have to see
Nice.
how my trivia team did tonight. I skipped out on them.
Oh no! Oh my!
I'm
Oh.
so busy. This is the only time that worked.
Oh yeah, and
I,
I'm not helping because I'm only available on weekends right now.
Yeah,
It's-
I have
it's
I
rough.
have the I work at a church I have for a long time, and we had a men's retreat last weekend. We have like a preschool, like family fair. I do. Okay, I did hear you say something, Caleb. You can not answer if you want, but part of me wonders, do you go to Woodbury Lutheran?
I don't.
Oh, okay, yeah. You
I
have-
don't. I don't live in. But you know the youth group podcast that we do.
Okay,
Scott, his parents went to Woodbury Lutheran for years and years and years.
okay.
So that's my. I mean, that was the big.
When you
So-
you mentioned like a bigger church, and I was like, I wonder, but yeah.
No, I went to a huge church, mega church at one point in the Twin Cities. I went to Bethlehem Baptist for a long time. Oh, we'll see how much of this makes it. This will all be in the extra stuff. But yeah, I went to Bethlehem Baptist, and then Scott, the guy who I co-host the youth group podcast with, his parents went to Woodbury Lutheran, and Woodbury Lutheran is kind of the joke one that we always thought like, oh, we need to save those kids because we were. I'm doing quotes. We were such a better church, our evangelical free, and we were so confused that we had to save the Lutheran kids. It's such a. Both of us feel embarrassed about it thinking back on it. Like, oh man. So yeah, no. So Woodbury Lutheran though was the big church in Woodbury when I was in high school by far.
Yeah, I think I know a couple people that work there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in that denomination, but
Okay.
we're,
I don't feel the need to save you anymore.
well after I'm on the Jeff show. Maybe you
I'm
should.
the one who swore the whole time. I mean, I'm gonna have to bleep out all my own.
I didn't get to.
There's a reason my kids call him the sweary guy. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
I didn't get to talk about like so there's an art part of it too. Like there's like as you listen to this album, there's an art appreciation fact to it too. Like
Sure.
I'm not holding Jeff to a standard that I might want to hold myself to.
Sure.
I just appreciate his album as art, which
Yeah.
Josh, his stage name is Dies, but his real name,
Oh,
Porter,
yeah.
of
From
Showbread.
Showbread. Yeah.
Yeah, had a book a couple of years back now about art and his,
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it was really interesting to just see.
Yeah.
and some of the pieces in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun. Well, I don't know how much this is staying in, so we'll say goodbye again, just in case I don't know where I cut out this. So, thanks for joining me for the show.
Yeah, that'd be good to do.
So yeah, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. And then we'll hang up here and pretend like we're done talking, and then keep on talking. So I'll cut there for sure.
Okay.
So if anything we say after this, it's funny that you mentioned Woodbury Lutheran. So it did make me like a little thrown off. Like the big church in my area now is a Lutheran church. It's Hosanna Lutheran here in I think they're technically in Lakeville, but it's huge. And But the church we make fun of all the time on the other youth group podcast is, oh shoot, what's it called? Oh, it's Grace. It's like this huge mega church, and like it's super problematic. Like,
Okay.
like they gave a sermon last year on like, I mean, just it's totally MAGA loving
Oh yeah.
BS, and everyone goes there.
Interesting.
It's real problematic in my opinion.